Hello and welcome back. And this potato-shaped fish is called the sunfish. And let's begin. So starting off with the fun facts. They can grow up to the incredible length of 10 feet. And they are 8 feet fin to fin. So quite, box shape, I guess. And yeah, they're huge. And they are considered the heaviest bony fish in the world, weighing right over 2,000 pounds. So big fish. Alright, back to the artwork. The artwork itself is okay. Again, I like everything about it. I feel like I did pretty well with the prints, the patterns I picked, the colors. Well, minus the colors. The colors is the only problem I have. Everything else I'm fine with. I'm fine with the yellow-orange to a yellow-green. So the final color I picked was green, which kind of looks mediocre. Definitely should have had a bit more yellow to tie the whole thing together, but outside of that, it looks pretty decent, so... Moving on to the next artwork, and you can take a guess, it is the sunfish. So, like I said, they grow to a incredible size, which is quite surprising given their diet, which is because they eat the only animal that is not as smart as they are. In fact, I don't even think they have brains. It is the jellyfish. So yeah, they just eat a ton of jellyfish, and over the years, they grow big, so... Yeah, that's about it. And they also have almost zero defenses, which brings a great question. How have they survived so long? Well, simple. Two answers to that. They are disgusting to eat, which I'll explain a bit more later. And B, they lay a ton of eggs. So let's say they lay a batch of eggs. Let's say only 0.5% of those eggs hatch and make it to adulthood. Well, then the math is quite simple. If only 0.5% survives, then you just need to lay a ton of eggs. And that's what these guys do. They lay up to 300 million eggs. So, then at that point, 0.5 becomes quite a large number. See? Math is fun. Anyways, yeah, so that's how their population stays up. They lay a ton of eggs, and yeah. And they also have pretty rapid growth. So, they start off tiny little sunfish babies, and up to a couple years, they grow huge. So, yeah. So, the artwork I made, though, kind of has a circus theme by accident. I think it was the explosions and the color I picked, which looks okay. I'm gonna be honest, I hated this one when I first made it. But over the months, it has grew on me, so, I actually like it a bit more now. It's probably my second favorite sunfish design I made, so yeah. Moving on to the next one, and once again, it's the sunfish. So, like I said, it's quite surprising that the only animal to eat is the animal that is dumber than they are, the jellyfish, and that is because they have the size of a walnut. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's not judge a species by the size of their brain, but their actions. And these guys have no actions. They are dumb. They don't think. They are literally just floating around the ocean, eating. That's all they do. That is all their thinking capacity. I am going to butcher that word. Anyways, yeah, these guys are not really that smart. And in fact, they actually have a thick skin. Very, very thick skin. And this is one reason why they are considered disgusting to many predators, is because their skin is 3 inches thick. And they have no scales, and their skin is quite rubbery and covered in mucus. So, it makes it hard for a fish to even grab onto them properly. And when they do, they're mostly eating skin, which, doesn't sound really that good. Unless you deep fried it. Deep fried. Then it might be decent, but incredibly unhealthy. So it's mostly No, never mind. Getting back into it. The artwork is pretty decent, The background is a bit dulled down, which I kind of did by accident, but yeah. Kind of reminds me of a regular show background. Anyways, the sunfish I didn't really like painting on here because it pops out a bit too much. But outside of that, though, it turned out okay. Just didn't really design the sunfish very well. But the next one I have did much better. And this is, guess what? Another sunfish painting. But let's start off the fun facts. Where do these guys live? What's their home? What do they do? Well, they live in the ocean. Kind of obvious. Don't know why you didn't thought about that. Oh, wait, I did. Because they live worldwide. So they live all around the world, in every bit of the ocean almost. Outside of the shallows. That's about it. Because they live in the open ocean. That's their habitat. Which, makes sense. You're not really going to find a 10 feet long creature on the beach. Unless it's, actually on the beach dying. But anyways, that is, quite interesting. Anyways, the artwork itself, composition, I kind of slanted it a bit too far to the right. But outside of that, it's okay. Kind of took everything I learned, combined it. The sunfish part of it looks much better. And yeah, the only complaint I had is I bought a whole new marker. Same brand, same thing. Same problem. Apparently it's the problem of the brand. I thought it was the problem with the marker I bought. Nope. It's just the brand. The brand does not make good tiny markers. Because when I use a ruler, you can see all over the, left and bottom side of the page, it kind of exploded a lot. Leaked. I guess leak would be a proper word. So yeah. Which creates this interesting effect, which I do like it, but not when I want it, it kind of gets annoying. And moving on to the last of the sunfish artwork, and this is the last one. And the last fun fact. Well, two last fun facts, I guess. These guys have a ton of unwanted friends. Sunfish can have over 40 different species of parasites. And keyword, species. So they have way more parasites than that, but they're just 40 different species of them. And how do they take care of themselves? How do they get rid of these parasites? Simple, by becoming a buffet. So they let birds and small fish eat them off. And for the birds, they kind of just float to the surface sideways and just let them, land on them and pluck the parasites off. Which is, good for the birds. Absolutely depressing life for the sunfish, but good for the birds. And because of their thick skin and parasites, kind of makes them unwanted by predators. Like, yes, there's some animals that do eat them. Like killer whales will eat them. They'll eat the specific parts of their body. But yeah. But a lot of animals, when they first bite them, they usually just bite and swim off. Because they're disgusting. Their rubbery skin, and the fact they're eating mostly skin, and the parasites, makes them an undesirable meal. So that's why you sometimes see sunfish with just random bite marks taken out of them. Which is, in my opinion, kind of funny, Imagine just swimming in the ocean and you see a living sunfish, still alive, still just chilling, and he just has a random bite mark, Doesn't let that ruin his day. I see that as a bit funny. It's sad for the sunfish, but a bit funny if just out of nowhere, so at least that's how I picture it. Anyways, the artwork itself turned out okay. Kind of used the light bulb, lighting print, and it created an interesting pattern. The only thing I gotta say, I feel like I made the background a bit too dark, but outside of that, it turned out okay. And that is all the sunfish artwork I made. So, yeah, nothing really more I can say, so I hope you enjoyed the video and have a good rest of your day.